In the beginning when I started, my prospects would be like, what is the business of dance? What are you that you do? Is this real? Is this legit? Are you real? And there wasn't this level of excitement in the beginning because I felt like I had to prove myself because I was doing something completely new that even in the dance world, people are like, what is this? We're not taught basic life skills in traditional schooling. And the same thing applies in the dance world. We're taught the art and the skill of dance, which is great, but I think that's about 20% of the equation in order to be successful. There's a whole other 80%, and that's the business side. Even in business today, I've taken huge risks in business, but I also know that without risk, there's no reward. And the only shot you miss is a shot you don't take.
How has the business of dance changed with this onslaught of social media and YouTube? And what is the importance of building a personal brand, not just for dancers, but for people in business and entrepreneurship like yourself?
I think building a personal brand, just as much as it is for dancers as it is for business, is in my generation, dancing for Beyonce and Janet Jackson and, Michael Jackson was like the biggest job that you could get. Now the dancers are the stars. Dancers creating a personal brand now is so important because, as you know, talent is only a part of the equation. Yes, it's important to train. Yes, it's important to have the skill set, but the same applies in business.
Welcome to the Jen Gottlieb Show.
Hi, Menina.
Hi, Jen.
I've been looking forward to this.
Same.
All day. All right. So for my audience, Menina is a very, 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 very special person to me. Not only is she a dear friend, one of our inner circle members, but also a girl after my own heart because she is a performer, former dancer. And she teaches dancers and performers how to monetize their passion, how to actually create a business out of what they love to do. And when I was growing up and performing, no one taught me how to create a business or make money out of what I was doing. It was just like, you're going to be a starving artist, go for it, and try to make your money waiting tables while you try to create some career, while you wait for somebody to pay you something, and then having no idea what to do with that money. And I know that this conversation is going to be really impactful for many people, not just performers. So welcome to the show, Menina.
Thank you so much for having me, Jen.
All right, so where I want to start, now that everybody has a little bit of a backstory, is I want to start back when you were creating your dance career. What did you envision that you were going to be doing with your life when you were a little girl, when you had this dream of being a dancer?
Well, I actually wanted nothing to do with dance in the beginning. My father was my first dance teacher. He owned a dance studio. Kind of backstory, my mother was a choreographer at Club Med. She met my father. She needed a dance partner. So she taught him how to dance. So they started teaching dance thereafter. I wanted nothing to do with taking my dad's jazz classes growing up. So I tried other activities. Gymnastics was my thing initially. Then one of my friends was like, let's take your dad's jazz class. And I was like, ew, I don't want to take my dad's class. So within the first few months, she ended up quitting, but I was hooked. And at the time, there was a show, I don't even know if you were old enough to remember, Star Search.
Yes,
where was a huge show. It's like the America's Got Talent of the late 80s. And I remember watching that show and being just mesmerized by everyone. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. I really would love to do that. My very first solo was Baby I'm a Star, Prince. And I remember telling my parents, Mom, Dad, I'm going to be rich and famous one day. And of course, like every parent, you're like, oh yeah, honey, that's really cute. But I'm like, no, for real. Like I want to dance one day. So it wasn't until I think 16 where I really had that like pivotal moment. I won a scholarship to train at one of the best dance studios in LA for a summer. And when I went to LA for the first time, I was like, wow, this is amazing. This is where I want to live. This is where I want to be. And I remember telling my mom at 16, I'm going to move here one day. She's like, yeah, sure, okay, whatever. They always just downplayed, okay, fine. And I had a one-track mind at the age of 18 because I'm Canadian. And there's a whole immigration process that goes into Canadians moving to the US. So at 18, I sit in an attorney's office and I told him, I'm like, I want to move here. What do I need to do? Never had an attorney in my life. I told my parents, so Mom, Dad, I need $2,000. They're like, are you crazy? And at that point, I decided, well, fine, I'm just going to do it myself. So I saved my own money. I was teaching dance. So mind you, I was teaching dance at the age of 12 at my father's dance studio, making $40 an hour, which back then was like massive. My friends were making $4 an hour babysitting. So I was already monetizing my passion at a really, really early age without even realizing it at the time. So I finally got my work visa in 2000, yes. But I moved to LA in 2001. And that was the big jump of, this is for real now. This is what I'm going to do within the first month. First of all, I already had an agent. I had my work visa. I had a little bit of money saved, which is unheard of back then. $5,000. My rent was $375.
Wow.
So back then I was like, okay, cool. I can live without any work for 6 months and be okay. That first month, I had a direct booking with Paula Abdul. That was huge because she was like my teen idol growing up.
So you arrive in LA and your very first audition or just first?
It wasn't even an audition. It was a direct booking. So my agent at the time used to tour with Paula. So she went to him and said, hey, do you have any dancers? I need to do the skeleton crew for Reefer Madness. And I was one of the dancers that he pitched. And I got approved just from headshot and resume. And then I got to work with her for a day.
Pretty quick success rate, right? When you get to LA, you get Paula Abdul.
Yeah, I was not expecting that. I was literally preparing. I was expecting the best, preparing for the worst. I was expecting I wasn't going to book right away. Fast forward, not even a month later, I did the Britney Spears tour auditions. That was the most grueling audition to date. It was 2 days, hundreds of dancers lining up across the block, people flying in from all over the world. I was the new kid on the block. Nobody knew who I was, but I knew who the who's who because I did my homework before I came. And I made it to the very end in the final cut. Now, I did not book the tour, but it was because of that audition that I booked my next big gig, which was the Pepsi commercials that aired on Super Bowl. And that was my first really big job. I made $35,000 in 10 days. So I was like, whoa, this is cool. So again, really getting the taste of like monetizing your passion. This is like a real thing. So that was how it all began. Now, I can't say that it was all sunshine and rainbows. There was a lot of peaks and valleys. There was a lot of rejection. There was a lot of no's. I still had to fight for my spot to be seen. But slowly but surely, I found my mark and pursued what I wanted to do, which was dance.
So it's so hard to say, like, if someone becomes what does it mean to become a success in the dance world, right? Like you did, isn't it one gig to the next to how successful you are? Because I found that.
Yes, it is a gig. It is definitely a gig. Well, it depends on what industry you're in. If you go through more Broadway, you have longer contracts. If you're in the commercial dance scene in LA, which is where I was, it is a gig, market where you're working for one day or a week or a month.
So you're only as good as your last gig.
Exactly. So you're only as good as your last gig. It's a lot of feast and famine. There's a lot of highs and lows. So whatever your paycheck is for this job, you better make sure that you can stretch it till the next one. So that I never did, though. One thing I'm very proud of, I never actually had a 9-to-5 job. I never waited tables. I never bartended. I never worked in retail. I don't know what a 9-to-5 job is. I have never had one. So I've been able to make a living solely off of dance and entertainment my entire life. Now, did I have some kind of side hustles? Yeah, I did like bar mitzvahs. That's where I met my husband. So yeah, I did some random dance jobs. When I say dance in quotation, because, the dance at a bar mitzvah is not high-level dancing by any means. So it is definitely feast and famine for a period of time. It is really hard as a dancer to be able to sustain a career. But I did it. And I never, ever asked my parents for help, ever. If times got tough, my go-to was I would go back to home, which was Vancouver, and I would teach a workshop or do some choreography for competition routines. That's how I kind of dealt with the highs and the lows. But it really, I made it work. It was survival of the fittest for sure.
You're very resourceful. You are to this day. That's one of your superpowers, how resourceful you are, how you take action without without fear. I'm sure there's a little bit of fear there.
Yeah, there's tons of fear.
But you take action anyway.
No, I do. I'm kind of impulsive sometimes where the logical mind says this is not the smart decision, but the heart says it is. And that's why sometimes people don't ever understand why I do what I do and the big risks that I take, even in business today. I've taken huge risks in business, but I also know that without risk, there's no reward. And the only shot you miss is a shot you don't take. So with that being said, I feel like, well, you might as well give it a shot and try, because what's the worst thing that can happen? You're at the same spot where you started.
Exactly. So you have this dance career in LA.
Yeah.
You're dancing for people like Britney Spears and Paula Abdul. And when does it end? When does the dance career end? Take us there.
So it had a start go experience. Pregnancy was the first time that I had to put dance on pause. I don't want to say quit, but it was on pause. I was actually on a tour when I found out I was pregnant. I actually made
What tour were you on?
Nuclear Cowboys. It was like a motocross tour, and just as I started the tour, I found out I was pregnant. I was like, great. I also did So You Think You Dance Canada, and I made it to the finals, and I had to withdraw from the competition. So everything I was on a high, honestly, with my career, and then it was like, you're pregnant. So my husband and I were engaged at the time, and when was baby due? August of 2010, the month of the wedding. So all my plans got derailed. I had to end the tour early. I couldn't do So You Think You Can Dance Canada. I was like, forget the wedding plans. We're having this baby. Now, back to being resourceful, I was like, well, what can I do now? I want to dance. So I created a whole prenatal dance program. So I did that. I have a DVD that's on Amazon. I don't really promote it anymore, but it's there. And that was kind of my project during pregnancy. So after every pregnancy, I felt like there was a bit of a part of me that died and then a rebirth. I felt like there was always a pivot that happened, and there was always something that I felt like I had to adjust. So I tried to go back to auditioning after baby number one. It was hard. I was breastfeeding and pumping in cars and getting my husband to bring the baby to sit in the car, and I'm breastfeeding, and then I'm going to auditions, and I was not focused because I was thinking of baby, and then I was leaking breast milk, and it was a thing. It was a thing. And I was like, this life is just not working for me. So then I kind of pivoted more into the production side. So I worked on shows like The X Factor and America's Got Talent as a part of the creative team. So that felt a little bit more in alignment, so I didn't have to do the hustle bustle audition life. But even then, the real kind of, I think, real pivotal, like really hit me hard was 2020. And I think for obvious reasons for everybody, the events business shut down, because I've been producing an event called the Hollywood Summer Tour since 2006. And I couldn't do that anymore. I couldn't produce events. I couldn't judge dance competitions. I couldn't teach at dance conventions. And I had baby number 3 end of April of 2020, my lockdown baby. So I was having major cabin fever, and again, feeling like, okay, well, what do I do with my life? Like, all I know is dance. And I remember my parents thinking, well, maybe you need to go look for that 9-to-5 job with the pension, and maybe you can teach French, because I speak multiple languages. Maybe you can go teach French. There's a shortage of French teachers. I was like, no, I don't want a 9-to-5 job. I want to do something related to dance. So then I created a whole postnatal dance program with baby number 3. And I got back in shape from the comfort of my home. And I, again, being resourceful of like, what could I do? I'm stuck at home. I have 3 kids. I have a husband. I've got 2 dogs. I can't travel. I can't do the work that I want to do. And I need to get back into shape myself. So that was the problem that I solved for myself, while also being able to help other moms, because I'm sure that there was many others that were dealing with the same issue of being stuck at home with kids and wanting to be in shape. So I did that for a little bit. Now, I had some success. My clients did great, but monetarily, it wasn't really fruitful for me. And then 2022 is when I had another big shift. That's when I was able to finally go back to the Hollywood Summer Tour and produce my dance event that was on hiatus for 2 years. But I had a huge problem. I had already spent the money that I collected from a couple of years ago, and now I had an event to run. So I was literally scraping pennies trying to produce this event. So again, being back to resourceful, I had to really huge budget cuts. But then I was like, okay, well, I have another problem. Okay, I have just enough to barely do this event, but then I have nothing left afterwards. How am I going to eat afterwards?
You're listening to The Jen Gottlieb Show.
So then I, on the fly, decided, with the encouragement of my husband, because he was telling me for months, Menina, this whole mom dance fitness is great, but your gift is mentoring dancers. You need to create an online version of what you typically do in person. And I was like, I hate teaching dance classes on Zoom. I don't want to teach dance on Zoom. He's like, you don't have to teach the dance part. Just teach the business part. I was like, yeah, I guess I could do that. So I did a pitch, my very first pitch, just off of a Canva presentation. It was just a very, very small room. And I made $17K in that day. And mind you, prior to that, I had for 2 years straight, the income was like non-existent, like $500 a month. It was painful. It was horrible. I was literally begging people to come take dance classes online with a crying baby. It was a very humbling experience. I was at my rock bottom. Financially, I was at my rock bottom, even just with my identity. I had just turned 40 at the time. So I was thinking, like, what am I doing? Am I going through this midlife crisis? What is this thing that's happening? So after dealing with that struggle and constant like throwing spaghetti at the wall, I'm like, will this offer work or that offer work? And I just kept fighting through it. And then I finally did this pitch for the business of dance, which is now my newest baby that I've been doing now for 2 years. And after that presentation, I was like, oh, I think I'm onto something. I hadn't created anything, and I'm sure you know what it's like to create something new off of just an idea. You just have an outline. You have no clue. You're going to build it out with your clients. You literally have just finished doing this with, the stage leaders. So that's exactly what I did. Is I started with a small beta group, and I built it out with them. And the program has evolved so much since when I started. Now I have a podcast that's been running for this past year. And which I never knew anything. This whole podcasting industry was completely foreign. But I was like, I'm just going to do it anyways. We'll figure it out as we go. And now I can say that I've interviewed Paula Abdul and Abby Lee Miller and JoJo Siwa and Allison Holker and all these incredible people in the dance business that are now on my show that I would have never, ever, ever dreamed of that. So now I feel like I'm on a different stage. I'm sure you can relate to that. In a different way. I'm performing in a different way. I'm teaching in a different way. But most importantly, what I love about what I do is being able to do what I love, be able to also balance the whole mom life on top of that, because I work remotely. I literally was just in the Dominican Republic with you and my family while working and being able to make a living doing what I love from anywhere. Like we're in Miami right now. I live in Vancouver. I was in, Punta Cana last week. I'll be in Orlando next week. To be able to travel, which I love, and to be able to still be in the dance industry, which I love, to be able to make a great living doing what I love, and then be able to also balance family life. So I really feel like I just stepped into this new era, this new chapter that is far greater than I ever imagined when I was a young dancer.
This whole thing fascinates me so much because it is such a reminder that we can't necessarily see how everything's going to connect.
Right.
We don't know. Like you knew you had this skill set. You knew that you loved dance. You had this unbelievable passion for this. And maybe when you were a little girl, maybe I'm going to be rich and famous being a dancer. But you could have never seen that it was going to be something in dance, but so much different. But it was probably even more fulfilling now than a dance career.
It's huge because I like you have experienced, you're not waiting for somebody to say yes to you anymore. You're able to create your own work schedule when you want to work, make the money you want to make, and still feel fulfilled, which is such a beautiful gift to be able to do that. And not many people can say that they truly love what they do and figured out a way to monetize their passion. And that's really, I feel like the theme of my life is how do I monetize my skill sets and my passions? And it's always related to dance in some way.
All right, let's talk about the fact that you have 3 kids and you're doing all of this. And this is, I talk to a lot of people, you guys. And I told Menina this, that she is the one person that I actually think, I don't know if you can do it all. I feel like you can do it all, but not all at once. But somehow you manage to build a 7-figure company with 3 children and travel all over the place. And when you set a goal, and I'm in the room when you set the goals because you're in our inner circle, you go out there and you accomplish it. And not only do you accomplish it with all of the photos and all of the content and a huge, massive smile on your face. The person that's listening right now that's like, oh, I want to create an online program of my passion. I want to start monetizing my passion. But I have a bunch of kids and I have a scenario where I cannot travel or I've got a lot going on. Talk to me about how you were able to, or maybe some tips that you can give to people of how you can shift your mindset to create some sense of either balance or integration or whatever you want to call it.
So I don't really believe in the whole work-life balance. I think we've talked about this off camera before. My life is a juggling act. It truly is a circus. I have kids dangling off of me. I have diapers to change. I have dogs that are climbing on top of me. I have a team of 10 working behind the scenes. I'm on my phone. I'm on my computer. I stay up till wee hours of the night. I'm driving kids to school. I'm driving kids to lesson. I'm cooking dinner. I'm doing all the crazy mom things while working. There's days where I'm like, today I look presentable, but not every day is like this. Most of the time I'm in my sweats, no makeup on, hair's in a bun, flip-flops, Crocs, and just really sloppy. I could literally go from like hobo to glam, the next day. But that's also the beauty of it is, yes, behind the scenes, it's absolute chaos. It's never balanced. Now, I may look like I do it gracefully, but I think that's just the highlight reel that we show online. But behind the scenes, there's a lot of chaos. So I'm not going to say that it's this like beautiful, balanced life. I will say one tip, though, I think that has been really helpful for me is I time block and I put all of my kids' activities. I even put my husband's schedule in there, my schedule in there. So I know where everyone is at all times of the day. I even do that with my business. Like I actually am able to see everyone's calendars on like our Google Calendar, for example. So I know all the appointments that are coming in. I know all of the coaching calls and the sales calls. So for my business and for my personal life, I see everything. So that helps me stay organized. So I look, before I go to bed at night, I look and see what my day looks like tomorrow. And then I'm able to fit in, okay, so I have these appointments at this hour. I got to bring my kids to school over here. So I have a little chunk of time there. So maybe I'll fit in a workout there. I'm going to walk my dogs over here. So I adjust. It's like a dance, really. It's a kickball change and pivot all the time.
Yeah.
And you just adapt to that. And I set my working hours. If I'm on vacation with my family, I block out the entire week and there's no calls and appointments coming in. But then there's some days where I'm on calls all day. So I have the flexibility now to work when I need to, work when I want to, and then integrate the family somehow in between. Or sometimes I have the family as the starting point, and then I fit everything else around the family responsibilities. That's another thing too that I do, because I know my kids are in school at these hours. They've got dance here and volleyball here and gymnastics over here. So I know this is their schedule, so I can take calls in between here and here and here. So it's like a puzzle. The way I look at my schedule, it's like a big puzzle. So I think that's how I manage the time aspect of my life personally and professionally, which I think has been super helpful. I would not be able to remember all of this with my own brain.
It sounds like you very much embrace the chaos instead of trying to fight it. Like I know a lot of people, it's just so chaotic, oh my God, I can't even, and they break. But you're like, this is what it is. I've got, it's like, and yeah, it's crazy and it's great at the same time. And it really
like performing. But think about it. Backstage of any show is absolute chaos. It's costume change, it's hair, makeup, lights, hurry up. I forgot where I was. Wait a minute, what are you doing? Wrong side. That's the life of a dancer. So I guess you could say that's kind of like my real life as well, because maybe behind the scenes, it's absolute chaos. And the moment I walk out on that stage or walk in front of that camera, then it's take that deep breath. And then all your problems go away in that moment. And then after it's done, you feel amazing, you feel fulfilled, and you're like, okay, let's do it again tomorrow.
Yeah. The Jen Gottlieb Show is sponsored by BetterHelp. It's sometimes hard to remind ourselves that we're trying our best to make sense of everything. And in this crazy world, that isn't always easy. I've been in therapy for years, and big shout out to Debbie, my therapist. She's helped me learn positive coping skills, how to set boundaries. She's empowered me to do the best that I possibly can in the scenarios that I'm in. She's helped me to recognize some of my past trauma and how it affects the decisions that I'm making today. And most importantly, she's just a great listener. If I don't want to share things with all of my friends and family members, or even on this show, I know that I have a safe space in my therapy sessions. I am a big believer in therapy, and that's why I'm a happy sponsor of BetterHelp. BetterHelp is entirely online. If you're thinking of starting therapy, you can give it a try because it's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. So visit betterhelp.com/GenG today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/GenG, JENG, to get 10% off your first month. Give BetterHelp a try. All right, let's talk about the business of dance, because I do think that it relates to every thing that you're doing, not just dance, or every job or every human being on planet Earth can learn a lot about building a business the way that you teach your dancers to build a business. Because I think that personal brand, I mean, we can probably relate on this and agree on this, is absolutely everything in 2025 right now. And I think moving forward, we are all our own media company. We all have our own stage and our own TV show on our phone. And we all, instead of handing in a resume with your headshot on it anymore, we're just a walking billboard. Like our Instagram is our billboard, and we don't even have to do anything anymore. How is the business of dance changed with this onslaught of social media and YouTube? And what is the importance of building a personal brand, not just for dancers, but for people in business and entrepreneurship like yourself?
Absolutely. Well, I think building a personal brand, just as much as it is for dancers as it is for business, is people nowadays, they want to look you up. So the moment, whether if you're going to a casting, they're looking at your Instagram. If you're trying to get signed by an agent, they're going to your Instagram. They want to see what you're about, and how you present yourself online gives them a little snapshot of who you are and what you might be to work with. And the same applies in business. If somebody receives an email from you or a phone call from you, who is this?
Yeah.
They're going to go Google your name. They're going to go on your Instagram, and they're going to have a look at like, okay, this is what this person is about. They're also going to be looking for those credibility markers. Now, for some people, it is the followers. I don't have millions of followers yet, but I do have media, which is something I've learned a lot from you and Chris, is being able to leverage the media as a way to build credibility, authority, and trust. Just this year alone, I really put a lot of my energy into getting into the media, being featured in over 400 news sites and ABC, NBC, Fox TV shows, and tons of podcasts. An article in Forbes is coming out soon, Success Magazine, all these things. And that really has changed my business in a great way, because in the beginning when I started, my prospects would be like, what is the business of dance? What is that you do? Is this real? Is this legit? Are you real? And there wasn't this level of excitement in the beginning, because I felt like I had to prove myself, because I was doing something completely new that even in the dance world, people were like, what is this? So having that media, those media markers now, it really helps somebody that knows nothing about me, nothing about my company, and is able to go, oh, okay, she's been on TV. Oh, they recognize these logos, if you will. And they're able to see like, oh, well, she must be an expert. She must be good at what she does if she's in the media. So it really helps my sales team, for example, close sales, because people are like, okay, this is real, she's real. And then also I really thrive on client results as well. So I share a lot of client testimonials and client wins, so that my prospects can see that this could be them too. So I think it is super important in this market to build that personal brand, because here's the reality. Our businesses will change. They will evolve. You know, what you do today may not be the same thing that you do in 20 years from now. And if you built this beautiful brand and then you exit that company, or you fold the company for whatever reason, then the brand goes away and your identity is lost in that, because that was your brand, but you didn't build a personal brand. But if you have a personal brand, you could start anything. If you have an audience, you can start anything. And your audience already knows, likes, and trusts you because they've been following you for years. So you can offer them any service or product, and they will still buy, because you have built that personal brand and they have gotten to know you over the years. So there is that know, like, and trust factor.
I mean, you're just speaking my language. It's almost like we hang out and talk about this all the time.
Maybe a little bit.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. And let's talk about what it means for performers and dancers in the entertainment industry. I mean, we've seen just recently with the election cycle how important social media and podcasts and citizen journalism and has become in how we make our decisions, how we get our news, how we choose one thing over the other. Back in the day when we were auditioning as dancers or performers, it was our headshot, our resume, how we did in the room. Yeah. I have a feeling that how you do in the room isn't as important anymore as how many followers you have on social media. Am I right, or is there some truth to that?
That has played a component. I did experience that first time about over a decade ago, that they were not auditioning dancers unless they had at least 10,000 followers for a commercial. That was the first time I ever experienced it. I was like, what? Like, why does my follower count have anything to do? But brands have changed the way they're doing their they're putting advertising dollars now in the social media space, specifically with the influencer market. Now dancers are becoming influencers. They're becoming the performer, the director, the videographer, the costume designer, now we have as your phone, or I mean, you could have a camera crew as well, has become like, now you're content creators as dancers. I mean, and even in business, you are now a content creator, and brands will pay dancers now a nice chunk of change to do like a 30-second video. I have friends that make $15,000 for like a 30-second little TikTok dance. And it's not even like anything crazy dancing. It's just like a fun little dance. I never had that opportunity when I was coming up. In my generation, dancing for Beyonce and Janet Jackson and, Michael Jackson was like the biggest job that you could get. Now the dancers are the stars. Shows like Dancing with the Stars, So You Think You Can Dance, have put dancers on the map and be recognizable names now. I didn't have that when I was growing up. So, dancers creating a personal brand now is so important because, as you know, talent is only a part of the equation. Yes, it's important to train. Yes, it's important to have the skill set. But the same applies in business. How many products that we know out there that are probably not that great, but they have really good branding, marketing, and sales. And that's why they're making millions of dollars. It's not because they're the best quality product. The same applies to the dance industry. There's so many beautiful, talented dancers out there that don't make it. It has nothing to do with their talent. It's because they don't understand the business side. So when I talk about business, we're talking about mindset. We're talking about personal branding, social media marketing, and then it's finances, it's taxes, it's nutrition, college prep, all these life skills. But I wanted to basically create an education system because I know the traditional education system is broken. We're not taught basic life skills in traditional schooling. And the same thing applies in the dance world. We're taught the art and the skill of dance, which is great, but I think that's about 20% of the equation in order to be successful. There's a whole other 80%, and that's the business side. So that's what I focus on with my clients, is help them understand that they are a business, they are a brand, and they need to know how to package and promote themselves in a way that other people will want to buy their services, which is the same rules of business.
Exactly. And here's something that I know that you know a lot about. All performers know a lot about this topic, which is rejection and failure. Mm-hmm. And you work with hundreds, maybe thousands of dancers that are out there auditioning, trying to get roles, putting themselves out there. And we both know that in this space, it's more no's than yeses.
100%.
And being resilient is, I think, sometimes even more important than being talented. Because if you're super, super talented and you go out there and you just quit after you've gotten 5 no's, the person that's the more resilient and less talented, if they're going to keep going and going and going, they're going to end up being successful. Can you talk about this idea of getting back up after you've gotten the biggest rejection of your life, so that if someone's dealing with that right now, they can be a little inspired to get back up and try again?
Trust me, I know what it feels like to fail. I know what it feels like to lose, but I've also liked to shift the mindset of you win and you learn. And through rejection, through loss, through failure, through defeat, through those really dark times, in that moment, it sucks. In that moment, you want to cry. In that moment, it feels like nothing is possible. But if you keep putting one foot in front of the other and you keep trucking along, this game of life is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And I think sometimes we're looking for instant success. And, in the entertainment world, we like to say that it takes 10 years to become an overnight success. People don't see, all the work that happens beneath the surface, and they just see the shiny object at the top. And there's a lot of blood, sweat, tears that is required to achieve any level of success. I think every entrepreneur, no matter what industry that you're in, no matter what level you're at, has experienced some kind of loss or defeat. But they've also used that sometimes as leverage. And sometimes those are blessing in disguise. When I even think back what happened in 2020, that was one of the darkest times for me as in my career. But now I look back and I actually say that was actually one of the biggest blessings that ever happened to me, because I don't know that I would have pivoted the way that I did. I probably would have continued down the life that I was on. And sometimes you need to experience the hardship so that you can really take that time to reflect and what it is that I want. Is this really what I want to fight for? When you really know what you want to fight for, whether it's a business, whether you're a dancer, you will do whatever it takes, and you will never quit until you achieve that level. And then even too, you get to that quote unquote level and you're like, okay, great, I made it. Now what? Then you set a new goal and then you fight for that goal and then you set a new goal. And you keep climbing, because I don't think there's ever a moment in your life where you feel completely satisfied, like, okay, I made it, I can quit now. There's always the chase. I think as humans, we like and we thrive in the chase. And I also feel like when you deal with so much rejection, especially in the entertainment world, when you do get that yes, when you do get that victorious moment, it feels so good. And then it reminds you of like, okay, this is why I fight so hard to be able to achieve what I want to achieve, because there are those glorious moments. For me, performing in front of 60,000 people at the Seoul Olympic Stadium, the roars of the crowd and the pyro and the lights and the adrenaline rush, it's the highest of all highs. And that's when you have those type of moments, you're like, wow, not everybody gets to experience this. This is really cool. So it's worth all of the hardship and all of the failures and all of the feelings of defeat. And there's days you just want to throw in the towel and quit. And you've got people around you that says, oh no, just, go get a real job and, just go to your plan B. And I'm a firm believer, if you have a plan B and you focus your energy on plan B, you're going to get plan B. So if you really, truly want your plan A, then you got to go all in and you got to go deep and just know that it's not going to be easy and it's going to be okay. And one foot in front of the other, keep pushing forward. And eventually you look back and go, wow, I look at how far I've come. And you'll realize that it was all worth it in the end.
Get outside of your comfort zone and into your best life, one small step at a time.
So now you're full on, you're a business owner. Like, I could have done this entire interview without the dancer part, just like tips from a business owner that's scaled her business very quickly to 7 figures. What's something that surprised you about business, that when pivoting from a dancer to now owning a business and operating and having salespeople and setters and closers and finance and all the things that go along with business, what's something that you learned that you're like, I didn't know this was really important and I need to get better at this, or every business owner should know this?
Having a team was definitely a pivotal thing for me, because I come from a family of family-run businesses. My parents had my dad had a dance studio, my mother had a dance competition, my grandparents had like a wine distribution company and a corner store. So there was always business in my life. So I've always learned from my family, but when it came to business, but it wasn't until I got the help that I needed. Hiring coaches was really a game changer. It's not something that my family understood. Everyone thought I was crazy. Even my own husband, he's like, what? What do you need a coach for? You can't do this. You can't figure this out on your own. And I realized that you don't know what you don't know. And being able to find somebody who is 10 steps ahead of you was huge. And that is really, I think, the reason why I've been able to scale so quickly is I was able to find mentors like you to be able to show me the way, so that I don't have to keep throwing spaghetti at the wall and trying to figure it out myself, because you pay for speed when you hire a coach, when you hire a mentor. And I think there's so much value in that, because there's always someone that's 10 steps ahead of you, which is why I love what I do, because I'm able to fast track dancer success rates. Instead of them spending years throwing spaghetti at the wall trying to figure this game of dance, I'm able to concise it in months instead of years. So I really do believe that not doing this business with a mentor, with a coach, somebody that knows more than you do, I think is so valuable in business. We can talk tactical things too. Like, I love systems and processes and automations and AI and, working as a team. Like, there's all those other components that have been really powerful, because I've been in business on a different level, but it was more of a solopreneur.
Right.
So being able to actually step away and have my business run without me has been a real nice game changer, because I used to be so focused on working in my business, and I was a bit of a control freak and didn't want to let things go, or didn't feel like I could trust other people to have the care and the love that I do. But when you find the right people to be a part of your team, you realize that everybody can really contribute and makes your vision even greater than what you thought possible. So those would be some of my key tips.
We're going into 2025,
Mm-hmm.
new year. What are you thinking about this year as you step into Menina 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, insert whichever 0.0 you want to insert? What are some of your goals this year? Is there a special routine that you do when you step into the new year to prepare yourself?
I don't, it's a good question because I haven't actually thought of it. This year, being seen was a big one for me. And I feel like I've done that.
Oh, yeah.
I think I've done that in a pretty remarkable way, in ways that I didn't even think possible. I haven't really sat down with myself to really see what the vision is for next year. I feel like everything has just been moving at lightning speed, that I feel like I'm just riding this wave. I'm like, where is this wave taking us next? And of course, I want to scale my business up, above and beyond where it is today. So that definitely is a goal monetarily. I want to have the systems and processes in place so that my business is not dependent of me, so that I can focus on working on my business more. I mean, I think but right now the key word that comes to mind is growth. I think I'm really ready to really scale. I feel like I've been in this like race of like a hamster wheel. I'm like, go, 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 run, 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 run. And now I'm ready for the big explosion.
Yeah. I mean, I have to acknowledge you because I watch a lot of business owners build, and I've never met anybody like you. I want everybody that's listening to definitely follow Menina and see what she's done in the way of really, you have such courage in putting yourself out there. And really, truly, like I wrote the book, Be Seen. Like I feel like I wrote it and you read it as your textbook and you went out there and you actually did it.
It came at the perfect time. When I saw you at your event, Build Your Brand Live, and I saw you on that stage and you were releasing the book, I read the book right away. And I resonated with it so much because I think of your journey as a performer and how you're now on new stages and you're being seen in a different light. I'm like, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do too. And you inspired me so much. And as you know, I set goals and I run and I get it.
You run. Wait, that's the thing. So some people read it, they come to the event, they get it motivated. I want to do that too, right? And they get excited about it and then they don't take action. But you are someone, every time you say you're going to do something, you go out there and you do it immediately.
I do it when I'm at that peak state. Because when you're inspired, you're at an event, you're reading a book, you're listening to a podcast, whatever that thing is that inspires you, immediately I got to write something down. I got to take action. I got to do the thing that I want to do, because I feel like if you wait for too long, then the energy dies down and then life gets busy and you get distracted and then you just go back to your whatever you were doing before. But when you take action, when you're in that peak state, there's a bit of an adrenaline, I think, that happens because every time I leave an event, I'm like, I make this long to-do list, my goal list, and I figure out my numbers, my KPIs. What do I need to hit to get this, and what do I need to do to get that? I'm going to reach out to this person, and I just I start doing things. Doesn't always make sense in the moment. Sometimes there's strategy, and sometimes there isn't. It's just let's just run, and something's going to, pick up. It's like that momentum that you just start creating momentum and you start like pedaling and you're like, I'm going somewhere. I don't know where I'm going, but we're going some places. And then things happen, but yet you have to take action and no matter what it is that you want, because it's nice to dream. We can all dream big and that's lovely, but without action, it means nothing.
So what do you have coming up? How can people connect with you? If somebody's listening and they've got a kid that's a dancer and they want some business dance mentorship, how can they find you for that?
So the website is bizofdance.com. My personal Instagram, which is where I hang out the most, is Menina Fortunato. And I also have a podcast. So if there's any dance parents or dancers listening, I have a podcast where I interview different guests every week that are dancers, teachers, choreographers, agents, casting directors. And they basically get like a VIP access backstage to what really goes on in the industry. And Googling my name, there's no other Menina Fortunato out there. I'm pretty easy to find.
You're amazing. You're such a gift in my life and so many other people's lives. I'm so grateful that you came out here to Miami to do this with me. I learned a lot from you. I always learn from you when I speak to you. And I hope that everybody listening learned a ton from Menina. And if you loved this, please share it. Tag Menina, tag me, share where you're listening to it. I always love seeing that. And thank you so much for being you, for being here with me, and for being so gracious with your time and energy and knowledge. Thank you so much for listening to the Jen Gottlieb Show. I will see you next time.